Hi everyone, good afternoon. So sorry for the delay as we were having some technical difficulties. Welcome everyone to another edition of the ACE to Tarik series, where we hear from the folks within the ACE community share their expertise on a selected topic. This is Carmen and I'm your host for today. Before we start, I just have two requests. Please help to rename yourselves to help us verify that you are a registered participant of this event, and also to make sure that your microphone remains muted at all times. At any point in time, if you have questions for AJ, you may also type it into the chat box and we will address it in the short Q&A segment that we have after his sharing. If you are new to ACE, our primary mandate is to support tech-based startup in the Singapore startup ecosystem. Our efforts are focused in building a dynamic and sustainable startup ecosystem in Singapore. For the startup community at large, we organize various programs and events for founders to gain insights and perspectives from various domain experts. Today's session is part 2 on the current topic of understanding venture financing and investment. This session is also in partnership with Jailworks. I will now invite Hui Sun from Jailworks to give a short introduction. Hui Sun?
Hi everyone. So Hui-san here from Jailworks. So Jailworks is actually set up by SLA in 2018, and we are actually an industry center that brings together geospatial companies, sectoral users, and public agencies. So we aim to promote business growth, drive innovation, and build a vibrant geospatial community. So that's one of the reasons we are partnered here today with ACE. And we are home to over 26 geospatial companies as well as 14 geospatial partners. So we're very happy today to be working together with ACE to bring to you one of our geotech, AJ, and we hope that everyone have a very good sharing session later on. Over back to you, Carmen.
Thanks, Hui Sun. So for the first half of the session, today we have AJ, who is also the co-founder and head of operations at NextBillion.ai, a geotech startup that offers a wide range of AI-powered hyperlocal solutions from business mapping to data management. Some might also be aware that NextBillion.ai was also the 2020 winner of Enterprise Singapore's startup competition Slingshot. Without further ado, I would like to hand over the time to AJ to share his fundraising journey and lessons learned. AJ, over to you.
Hi everyone, I hope you guys can hear and see me. I'll quickly share a deck and then just if you can see and if you can confirm it, I can move on. Carmen, all good?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, hi everyone. Again, I'm not an expert in fundraising, but when this, I thought, okay, I'll share at least a little bit of what I have learned from the last couple of rounds that we've raised. I'm Ajay Bulusu and I'm the co-founder of NextBillion.ai. We essentially are a hyper-local AI company that builds custom map stack across the world. We raised a 7 million seed/series A. That was the first round of funding that we raised for our company early last year from Lightspeed and Falcon Edge, two pretty marquee venture capitalists in the world. We also won the Slingshot, as Carmen just given an introduction, so I don't want to go into too much of depth, but we've been in a bunch of accelerators and competitions where our tech has been appreciated, accepted, and as well as sold. So without further ado, I'll actually go into the topic of fundraising 101. These slides have been taken from a very popular VC that we follow and we appreciate, but I've customized it a little bit so that I can talk over it on what I have learned throughout my thing, right? So the first things first is the perfect fundraising takes some time. We hear a lot of announcements and we think, oh my God, okay, even I can do this, you know, everyone's raising capital everywhere. So it's very, let's do this, let's just go and do it, right? So it's very similar to seeing Steph Curry shooting a 3-pointer and thinking you can go onto the court and just do it exactly the way he does. It's not so easy. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes preparation, execution, and closing. Good or bad, many VCs are actually very, very quick off late, but still, at least I would say the end-to-end process would take at least 4 months. I would say it depends on which stage of the company you are also at A to B, at least, because you're not still as well known. A lot of the things are not very crystal clear for VCs. They need to do a lot more checks than what they would have to for, let's say, a series DEF. On the series DEF, it's more about financials, understanding your metrics, but A, B, C is also about understanding whether you're a product market fit, whether you're a good business, whether whatever you're talking is making sense. So take anywhere between, 2 to 5 months for you to close fundraising. Also, there are 3 stages. One is preparation, execution, and closing. uh, when to fundraise is very important. As I said, preparation is extremely important. Seasonality is important. It depends where you're raising. It makes no sense to approach a Chinese VC during Chinese New Year because everyone's off, so you get cold very soon. Also, very important to understand who goes on vacations when, what's happening, quarter ends, year end. So make sure that you start your fundraising itself in a time where you understand, okay, this is a hot market, people are raising, people are listening to pitches, people are out there to do it. So it's extremely important for you to understand a little bit of seasonality, quarter ends. Also very important for your own company to have some metrics and milestones. Like, either if it's an enterprise company, you say, okay, I want to hit X million dollars revenue. I know my X million dollar pipeline is going to convert in this month. Based off on that, I'm going to go for fundraising. Because after, during fundraise, many a times you say, oh, I'm about to convert something, that sort of deters interest in VCs as well, saying, okay, why don't you do it and come back? Very, very, very important is how much money you have in the bank. The best practice in this thing is 12 to 18 months. When you know you're at that stage, you need to raise money again. Please don't wait for the last 6 months, because as I said, fundraising itself takes 4 months, 5 months. Many a times, fundraise may not happen. Right. So please factor in equity plus debt runway. Very important for you to have at least 1 year runway when you hit the market. Anything less than 1 year, you are treading on very thin ice. uh, Preparation also makes it has to be perfect. Like, when you, I've never done MBA, but I've seen a lot of my friends do it. They have a target list of schools, they prepare everything, uh, and then they move on, to the next steps. They make their SOPs. Same way, you need to prepare a target investor list very strategically. You cannot go to a B2C VC if you're a B2B company, and vice versa. You need to understand who's investing where, who's investing in your competition, who's investing in thesis. Many fundraise VCs have thesis. Some thesis, like, say, food delivery is my vertical. I'm going to invest in every food delivery company in the world. Like, SoftBank has a mobility thesis. Simple. They invest in every mobility company in the world. So if you're in mobility, does it make sense for you to approach these certain VCs? Have a pitch deck. That's obviously, it's what I'm saying is preaching to the choir, but have a good pitch deck. Data deck is super important. If you're post seed series A, B company, you need to show good data rooms, how your financial models are working. A novice mistake that I made when I fundraised very recently is I didn't have a data room, because our first fundraise was on a seed. We didn't have anything. So I just went with the same sort of thesis. Okay, let me just go and raise. It'll be done. But it didn't get done. So you have to be very cautious that you have all of these things ready. Legal and financial diligence gets very important after your first year of startup. First year of startup, nobody asks you anything, but you need to start collating, collecting information, and keeping it ready, because this takes a lot of time. And of course, have your customer and management references intact. Uh, there is nothing called a perfect pitch deck. Every business, every company is very different. But in general, the best practices for Series A company like ours, keep it to like 15, 20 slides. B can be 25, 30, because you're going to talk about metrics. Time is very important. You have to impress within 30 minutes, maybe even impress within 15 minutes, right? So keep it to a very less storytelling. Keep it very, the brevity is very important. Storytelling is the most important part of this, not your company, not your idea, not your, but how do you present what you're doing, the softer element. So make sure whoever is doing the pitch is extremely strong, extremely assertive, understands your business inside out, and can take the tough questions. So GTM, I mean, this is very SaaS centric because we're a SaaS company, but B2C, my tips are not great because I've never fundraised on a B2C perspective. But having your GTM strategy intact for SaaS, your customer references, the problem you're solving, the greenfield opportunity is very important. Then track the engagement as well. See how people are responding. Don't just go on a monologue. Uh, Very, very, very important, especially in SaaS, is keep your reference check and legal diligence on point. Make sure that you learn from every pitch. Give reference and data points. Never ever talk in the air, especially Series A, B, C. Say, okay, I delivered this software and that saved X number of dollars, or that improved X, Y efficiency. Have these talking points. Use custom use cases to refer. Say, okay, this food delivery company used my technology and this was the improvement that they saw, and that is how they did it. This is the process we followed. Extremely important. shorten the risk window. Even your best customers, as I said, you cannot ask every customer to give ref checks to every VC. So play your cards right. Like, let's say you have the same MBA analogy, right? If Harvard is your top school, go all in on Harvard. The rest of them can wait and follow. Same thing as well with the VCs that you really, really want to engage and get money from. Make sure that you go all ends in there. Next is execution of all this. It's extremely crucial for you to execute on the preparation, right? So make sure that you are very detailed. Talk to the VCs, get your times, learn and iterate quickly, ask for help where you want. Always keep the ball in their court because you want to make sure that you're having some pressure. Don't give fake FOMOs to VCs. They're smarter than us. They understand when you're about to close. There's market news. So let's make sure that you put the pressure, but not fake pressure. Manage your pipeline, manage a customer ref check calls really well, and learn and iterate quickly. Every pitch that you give, you can learn. I don't want to say this, but start with the people you do not want money from mostly. They give feedback to you. You understand what the market and the VC perspective wants. Learn from them. Many a times you can be an absolute misfit, not just you not wanting to raise money. The VC may not want to put money into you as well, but you learn a lot just through the conversation. Ask for help. Other founders have done this day in, day out. You don't need to rewrite the book and think you're very smart. So learn from your peers. ABC is what we always follow, always be closing. You need to keep closing the loops, closing the threads, closing conversations. Know when you should invest, and just, let's say, this 1 week, I will not work on my startup. I will only work on fundraising. I'm a founder. I am not going to do anything else, right? Make sure of that. Very, very important, reverse diligence. Many investors may be keen to put money into you. Money is available always to good ideas and good companies, but do you want to raise from that VC, and why? Are they going to open new doors? Are they going to give you something that you don't have currently? Not just money, right? Same way you're vetting them, they're vetting you. Just think of it like a dating process. Make sure that it's the right fit. You need to negotiate. Everyone negotiates everything. So please hire a good lawyer. Your legal team is extremely important. So because that's a make or break for anyone in the deal. So spend money on good law firms. That's like my other tip that I have for fundraising. That's one part that you do not want to back down upon. So make sure you're closing loops. Make sure you're on top of things, because the last thing VCs hate is people who slack and people who are just sort of not on top of their own things. Last but not the least is my last slide. Remember the 5 P's to perfect pitching: preparation, practice, go in front of a mirror, talk if required, talk to your second co-founder, talk if required. Make sure you practice precise targeting. Don't spray and pray. You can't send your pitch deck to 40 VCs and 30 angels and expect somebody to just convert. Doesn't work that way. You need to know what you exactly want. Pipeline and patience. So you need to be very patient. It's just a super long process. So please don't get deterred. It's an emotional sine curve, but it's all worth it at the end. So I'd love to take a break and take questions, if any.
Thanks, AJ, for the very insightful sharing. You're short and sweet. At this point, do we have any questions from AJ from the floor, please?
Hi, is it possible to just ask the questions right now, ladies?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Yeah, AJ, thanks for sharing. I just want to check with you. Right now we're raising a seed round, and we potentially might take some funding from non-institutional investors, so like friends and family round. In cases like this, how do we marry the term sheets from institutional investors against like a friend and family round if we were to try to combine them together?
So I would say just use whatever the institutional investors are giving you, because they are your longer term partners. And just have a standardized term sheet. When we did our angel during the seed fund, right, what we did essentially was we just used the same terms, same conditions, same everything that sort of Lightspeed gave us as a VC, because they are your long term partners. Of course, friends, family seed is important, but my best practice is keep it standardized to what the institutional investors want.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
There is another question from Masha. if AJ, if you have any advice, if they do not have any reference customers, what would you suggest could be done?
If you do not have any reference customers, then the two things that would play on the VC's mind is your team. Why is it that you people are the best and you can convince them that you will get the customers? That is one. That's what we sort of did because we were pre-product when we raised, but we were having extreme domain expertise in what we were doing. So that's one way to do it. Two is try and convince that these are the pipeline of reference customers that we will definitely get. You're in some stages of conversations with them. You know somebody there who has told you that this is a problem. So try to reference a person, a company, an actual problem, or something, right? You would have had, when you are doing your ideation, you would have spoken to a few of these customers. That should also help. So team plus some conversations should get you through if you have no reference customers.
Great. I hope that answered your question, Asha. We have time for one last question. How many VCs did you have to engage before getting in your 2 investors? Can you share some anecdotes?
I will have a very bad baseline. I just engaged with 2 investors because it was just the nature of, like, we were working and we didn't have time. We were in our jobs and we were doing all of this at night. So we frankly, again, that's another, it's not a mistake. We love our investors. So, but the thing is, it's about, we never went into market, which is very important, especially if you're early. So go into the market. We just did not have the time to do it. But again, you cannot engage 10 investors. Try and engage your top 4, top 5, because it's extremely time consuming. You have to also build a product and build a business. So I would say the best practice is at least to engage 4 or 5 and then take it from there. Don't go to 10, 20 investors. It's too much time.
All right. Thank you, AJ. Okay, we will take maybe one last question. The last question is, did you have to make a conscious decision to stop being a product expert and simply be a pitch expert? How do you balance the two apparently distinct roles?
Yeah, so it's tough because, like, your product is your pitch at early stage. It's not like you have 2 different pitches, right? Whatever your product and technology is what you're sort of pitching to the VC, but it's not a consumer pitch. So that line is very important, especially in enterprise. You can't do a consumer pitch to a VC, right? So you should be very cautious of the fact that you make it more businessy. There's a bit of VC jargon you have to do, TAM, greenfield. It's very, very, very crucial for you to understand. So there are very good lessons online on how to distinguish this precisely. We did the same. We spoke to other founder friends. So start learning the VC language before you go, because you cannot do a technical pitch to a VC. Excellent question. So please make sure that you learn some of the jargon points and what they learn.
Thank you, AJ,
for
sharing your tips, your perspectives, as well as your fundraising journey as a whole. I guess that's the beauty of the startup community, where founders get opportunities to learn from each other.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much, AJ. To the rest of our participants, this is not all. We welcome you to the second half of this session for today. So for today's Tarik session, we also have a live pitch segment, which is new to this community event as a whole. Today, we have 5 VCs who will be, 5 founders who will be pitching to our panel of VCs. Our VCs are Eunice from Monkey Ventures, Remy from Elevate VC, as well as Zhong from Cocoon Capital. So each startup would have a total of 2 minutes. So that's a quick pitch to the panel of our VCs, and then subsequently our 2 out of 3 of our VCs will then chime in and share their thoughts after that. So we will be going in this order. So the first one, can we have Hung Yi, please?
Yes, is it possible to share screen?
Yeah. Are you able to do so?
Give me a minute.
Okay, Hangi, whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes will start.
Oh, unmute. Sorry. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hongi, and Movement wants to make electric bicycles affordable and accessible to everybody. So research shows that electric bicycles are the best ways to get around urban places. And while major cities like in Singapore are building infrastructure to facilitate cycling, there is still a problem of very low adoption rates. So we asked Singaporeans what was stopping them from commuting with an e-bike, and the most common concerns were around charging batteries, high upfront costs, as well as repair and maintenance. Based on that, we devised a solution around building an ecosystem that will make e-bike adoption easy and affordable. Our product is in 3 parts: a smart electric bicycle, an affordable subscription platform, as well as a distributed battery swap network. And our business model is based upon mobility as a service. Customers pay us a low monthly fee, and we send them an e-bike, provide unlimited battery swaps, as well as repair and maintenance services. So you might ask, would anybody actually pay for an electric bicycle subscription? So the answer is yes. So we ran an MVP in December last year with 15 off-the-shelf e-bikes, and subscriptions sold out in 10 days with a growing waiting list. So our short-term goal is to grow rapidly in Singapore, specifically to convert the 125,000 cycling commuters to electric bicycles. And we also have our sights set on Western EU, where there is a mature cycling culture and similar legislation, so that we can access these markets with the same products. We believe we can get to about 1 million subscribers, which is only about 2.5% of the total market size, and pair that with $99 monthly subscription prices, we will get to a $1 billion annual revenue. There are some well-funded competition in the EU, but we believe in our competitive advantage, providing a holistic solution, high-quality electric bicycles, affordable prices, and excellent customer service. So my team and I are deeply passionate about last-mile solutions, and this is not our first rodeo. Prior to Movement, we ran a startup making and selling electric skateboards, which we successfully crowdfunded and shipped worldwide. So Movement is definitely a much bigger project, and we're looking to raise a seed round to put our bicycles into production, complete the development of our mobile platform, and go to market. So thank you for your time, and I'd also like to extend an open invitation for anybody to visit our workshop to test our bikes and battery stations. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Movement. Any questions from our VCs?
Hey, Hongi. Thanks for presenting. I'm Eunice from Mongsel Ventures. Can you 2 questions from me? Can you talk about more a bit about how the battery swap network works in terms of where you're placing the stations? What are the economics behind that? And secondly, how are you thinking about insurance and liability? Like, for example, if something happens to a cyclist or the bike itself.
Okay, thank you for the questions. So with regards to the battery swapping stations, we are in like preliminary talks with 7-Eleven and Cheers in Singapore. And how it's going to work is that we're going to pay them a monthly rental for their countertop space, and the pricing for the battery swap stations for battery swaps are already calculated into the monthly subscription. So to our customers, they only pay 1 monthly fee and they get access to unlimited battery swaps. And the reason why we're offering unlimited is because just based on our current customers' usage patterns, we believe that we can factor that cost into the monthly subscriptions. And secondly, with regards to insurance, we are actually working with a local insurance provider to provide insurance to all the bikes that we have in our fleet at this point in time. So that is also factored into the monthly fees.
Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, just to follow on Eunice's question, I think there's also a question around liability to the company, right? So assuming that one of your riders hits a pedestrian or something, which we have seen happen, how are you guys sort of planning that? Are you completely not liable, or is it part of your agreement with the user?
Yeah, so we had this conversation with LTA earlier last month, if I'm not wrong. So basically, the liability in the event of an accident would actually fall on the rider itself. So the liability will not flow back to us as a business, but because we buy insurance for our riders, the insurance will cover these accidents in the event that these kind of accidents happen.
Okay, and I guess my next question is around, just now you had some form of revenue projections to about $1 billion, right? That being said, how do you sort of justify yourselves as a must-have versus a nice-to-have? Because I know that a lot of enjoyment cyclists get out of riding is from their own bikes or customizing their bikes and things like that. So how do you see yourselves fitting into this space?
That's a good question. But I think like just based on a business model, the bikes actually are personalized to the individual users. So we are not a bicycle sharing business. We are a bicycle subscription. So basically the bike that we send to the customers, it is actually quote unquote owned by them, and they have the autonomy to make any changes or customizations to their bicycles.
Okay.
Sorry, just to follow up on that, does that mean that when the subscription is over, when they stop subscribing, do they have to return the bicycle?
Yes, correct. So when they, yeah, in the event that a customer concludes their subscription with us, the process will be that we will actually have to retrieve the bike from them, run through the checks before we return the deposit to them.
I see, thank you.
Okay, so I guess assuming you raise the funding and going forward, do you see yourselves as holding any inventory or any form of inventory? And if so, how do you see yourselves financing that?
In terms of inventory, we have 2 tracks that we are planning to run. So in the local context, there will be inventory that we will have to hold in terms of like managing a subscription fleet. But once the other plan that we have is actually once the bikes are made available, basically in production, we will actually also want to run a crowdfunding campaign so that we can sell these bikes overseas as well, in countries where we do not have our subscription platform available to them. So that will sort of, in terms of financial projections, that will sort of like not say 100% cover the cost of the fleet that we have locally, but it will help to defray the cost.
Okay, I guess just as a form of feedback as well, usually crowdfunding portions of your expansion doesn't really sit too well with VC. So I think that's definitely something you need to consider. That being said, I'm just sort of struggling internally because the idea of customizing the bike, like you said, appeals to the customer, but it does hamper your ability to scale. So are you sort of an electric bicycle infrastructure for bicycles, or are you a bike company as well?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I have a straight answer for you, but it does feel like we will have to play a bit of a role in both. And I would say like my team and I, our preference would actually be to lean towards an electric bicycle infrastructure, because the long-term plan is actually to open up a mobile platform to third-party retailers and local bike stores in other countries, such that they can offer their e-bikes out for subscription as well. We are just the spearhead to create this market for them.
Okay, no, that's good. I think essentially then I guess it's more feedback than a question. I don't know if this fits in within the whole pitch thing, but I think it's important for you to highlight as well, sort of like the reasons you're doing it, right? So for example, this pitch is kind of more, this is what we've achieved so far, but when VCs invest, we're looking long term. I think like AJ mentioned just now, right? So talk about what you're trying to achieve with this first round of funding and what you need to get to your vision at the end, right? Because if it's not covered, within this deck, then my impression is then you're either a bicycle company or like a battery swapping company, right? Not so much that you're trying to build the infrastructure, right? And so that's something that's important for you to communicate, because ultimately, VCs do look for the big exit at the end of every company, right?
Okay, got it. Thank you for the feedback.
Cool.
Thanks very much, So. That's a great start to this live pitch segment. In the interest of time, we will now move on to our second startup. Thanks, Hangi, as well. For our second startup, we have Ian from Treble.
Hi guys, do you hear me fine and see my screen fine?
Yep, all good. Whenever you're ready, your 2 minutes begin.
Perfect. Hi guys, I'm Ian from Treble, and here to share more about what we do today. I think the main problem that we're trying to solve is this obsolete hospitality process. And I know all of you would say like, oh wow, it's COVID, like travel and hospitality is dead, right? But I think there is a lot of opportunity for us now to help to kind of move them into the digital space and to help to improve this hospitality process. So the problem that we face across hotels is multiple channels where the guests are coming in, asking very similar questions that are very high manpower needs required, as well as reservations and check-in to be done on separate platforms or to be kind of quite fragmented without the access to this hyperlocal information that maybe we can speak to Billion.ai later to talk about. But ultimately, this is not just faced with hotels. We see that with attractions, travel agencies as well. And what we're really trying to do here is to try to automate this as much as possible through APIs and bots for the inquiries, reservations, and check-in, but ultimately building this travel ecosystem where we are able to cross-sell services and push the travelers to the right agents without them having to leave the first conversation that they land in. So we built our solution and technology to cover the entire aspects of all three areas within the ecosystem. So our aim is actually to consolidate the travel industry, and we want to help these businesses to serve their travelers more seamlessly through chat, automating the entire process flow to move the physical service into the digital space. So we actually deployed our solution in July 2019 to completely remove the front desk for a hotel chain here in Singapore by a listed company. But what it really means for us is that we take the guests from multiple communication channels through pre-trip all the way to post-trip with multiple integrations with property management systems, payment solutions, digital log companies, last mile solutions. And our product has been built across the entire journey. And what we really aim to do here with our fundraise is to kind of bring our solution to the smaller micro businesses that are around 50 to 100 room accommodations, where they easily deploy for $29 per room per month to deploy our technology to manage their inquiries, reservations, as well as the check-in, even having a templated mobile website and mobile application that they can kind of deploy for their guests to book and engage with them directly. So most importantly in the hospitality is the reviews that come in place. And I think what was most interesting here was this Russian review. We don't have it in Russian. I don't speak Russian, but we have it translated. And what it actually said was that even though she only understands and reads and writes English, she was very afraid of the accent and communication with her front desk staff in English. And she really found this solution very effective for her because she was able to take it in her own stride to do her check-in and ask inquiries. So the value that we bring is very clear to the businesses, but what it means to us is that we will be able to own this very extensive knowledge database and sales inventory that will eventually have this huge B2B2C base reach that we are looking to kind of target in 3 to 5 years' time. So the ecosystem that we have built is very, very abundant and customers across multiple regions. But what was really important for our growth was that in 2019 was actually profitable, and disregard the missing year, 2020 COVID year, we were still kind of hitting high revenue numbers, and we were serving more than 3,000 guests a day in 2019. So I think why now is that transformation for the digital space for tourism, for post-COVID tourism, is very, very crucial. And we have a product market fit fully implemented into hotels that are of larger size that we now want to bring it to the smaller businesses. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Ian, and you can reach me at ian@travel.co. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Comments from our VCs?
Hi, Ian. Eunice here.
Hi.
Thanks for the presentation. So there are many similar, I guess, omni-channel chatbot platforms out there. Some might be a horizontal play that's sector agnostic. Others might be hospitality specific. Can you talk about how travel is differentiated? And in particular, on the product side, I want to understand sort of what sort of API integrations do you have? Where do you sit in the tech stack?
Right. So I think that's a really good question. And obviously we have other players, even here in Singapore, we have like Vouch and Gtrip that I'm sure some of you have invested in as well. But what we kind of do is we are kind of embracing the entire ecosystem and are ultimately serving the B2B2C market, and our focus being the micro businesses. So I think in encompassing this entire value chain from inquiries, reservations, check-in, we do see other players like bot developers in the inquiries portion, omni-channel, we can Zendesk, we have Intercom, we also have other more tourism related or focused ones. But ultimately we're integrated with property management systems like Opera, Oracle, Cloudbase, SiteMinder, and even for those that are smaller even. So our shift towards micro businesses would be to kind of allow them to pay $29 per room per month and adopt our solution, even our own property management system or Cloudbase and SiteMinder, to be kind of fully encompassed in terms of moving digitally instead of pen and paper or Excel that they might be using now. Further on to that, which is self-check-in, we do have like Gtrip and other kind of similar players in the market. But our focus is really to kind of move that down to help these micro businesses. And we are actually in talks with Igloo Home to do like a $49 per room per month kind of model to kind of do a reverse rental for them to deploy these digital locks that might be very huge infrastructure cost for them from the start. And so I think the end of it, what we're really hoping to do is to consolidate the travel space. And that is our focus and our main and only focus, to kind of provide last mile services, redirect these travelers that we are serving through the hotels into Klook, KK Day, Grab, Gojek, to kind of find those services that they require in that same conversation that they started in. So I think that is kind of a bit more encompassing in terms of where we are serving and the more downstream side where we are targeting micro businesses. Yeah.
What is the, just to follow, what does the TAM look like from a market sizing perspective, a bottoms up market sizing look like?
Right. So I don't think we have a really accurate picture of the entire, like even the addressable market, because there is no great numbers that targeting the smaller businesses, the micro businesses now. But what we have found out is that almost 70% of these businesses are not in this 4-5-star position hotels like IHG Group and Marriott Group that are kind of serving, especially in the Southeast Asian market, which is going to be our first target market in the to be targeted in the region. So what we are looking at is at least like in Singapore alone, there are 365 of these smaller hotels and accommodations of an average of about 50 to 100 rooms. So if we take 50 rooms times $30, that's about $1,500 a month per accommodation for 365 of these hotels. Yeah, so I think that the TAM itself, just Singapore alone, and then looking at the Southeast Asian market, it's in the billions. Yeah.
Hi Ian, this is Remy from Elevate. So I have a question on your customer profile and how you go to the market with them, because the smaller hotelers might not be a lot more easier to serve as compared to the bigger ones, and you know, neither are the sales cycle necessarily shorter. So you know, but I can understand why you are not going for the IHGs, because they have very complex internal backend systems. So a couple of questions there, right? Firstly, in terms of the smaller micro businesses you are talking about, are you able to integrate with the different kinds of backends that they have? And sometimes they are using Excel spreadsheets. They don't even have a system that's connected or API ready. And so maybe let's go with that question first.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. Obviously, B2B, I guess your customer acquisition cost is obviously generally the highest. For us, like, so we have been serving like 500 to 1,000 room accommodations, boutique hotels, there are a few chains, ST Signature that I was mentioning. And going downstream, it really means, what it means for us is kind of being integrated with smaller platforms. Our go-to-market currently is through our resellers, through partners. So about 80% of our sales are going through our resellers. So digital lock companies, payment solution companies. So we're working with Red Dot Payments, Asia Pay. They are actually kind of promoting our solutions to their businesses, the smaller micro businesses in the tourism sector that they are focusing on. And more importantly, like our main aim for our go-to-market is actually to be able to kind of acquire this through our partners. So like, for example, Cloudbaits are serving a lot of micro businesses as well. And they are kind of, we are on their marketplace to be exposed to their clients. So the integration partners are obviously the most crucial for us at this point in time. Understandably, a lot of these businesses are even on a Microsoft Excel or even pen and paper, right? We have built a very simple property management systems that they can onboard themselves to kind of just add it as an inventory. And that will be able to expose them as on an internet booking engine through our conversations or through the templated website and mobile application. So I think what we're really trying to do here is to try to make this entire process a lot easier. And why it is such crucial time for us now is because we are seeing in Bali, for example, more than like the occupancy rate there is less than 10%. I think some of them are even in the single digits, like five and below. And we even see that in Singapore here, where businesses like hostels have shut down over the COVID-19 pandemic, and new investors are stepping in to take these ready-made hotels, with the licenses and are looking to deploy our technology to digitize and get ready for pre-COVID tourism. So post-COVID tourism. So I think that's where it's really crucial for us to kind of roll out as fast as quickly as possible to get the market share that we hope to be in Southeast Asia region.
Cool, thank you. And then the follow-up question would then be for a lot of these smaller hotels, the key reason why they still need someone at the reception beyond providing a front desk so that they have served the essential services that hotel guests need, is that at the point of check-in, there are actually quite a number of regulated security checks that these people will need to do. So I saw you have in there at check-in, for example, passport upload. But how does the system ensure that the passport that I upload actually belongs to me, for example, and a couple of other security considerations that you might have?
Right. So like, I think that's a great question in terms of security. So ultimately our position is that we are kind of enabling this check-in process. In Singapore specifically, like we work with Singapore Tourism Board for the e-visitor authentication. What it requires is for the guest to upload their passport and then to take a selfie at the location at the hotel, a specific kind of signage or something that we can recognize, to then be able to match that this is the right person to the passport before we dispense the keys. When you talk about laggards, like people that are kind of tailgating or getting into the property, I think even when a similar Meroid or IHG, we do see that, like 5 people trying to squeeze in the room, they kind of smuggle each other themselves in. So I think in that aspect, there's not much that we cannot help. We can't really help things that are really in the existing kind of problems that they are facing with security. But what we do for ST signature, for example, is like a 24/7 CCTV to recognize, and that is incorporated even with temperature taking, for example, for the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think in terms of access, in terms of security, the aim that we kind of do is to, even for smaller businesses, even it's just to kind of remove nighttime staff even, or for a bigger chain, like for example, ST Signature, they have one community manager that rotates between their 5 locations, and the entire kind of customer service support team is managed in Philippines with the CCTVs and our guest engagement platform, everything kind of laid out for them to be offshore and to be able to be managed remotely. Yeah, so the community manager on ground still does the service part, but they really don't do any more of the check-in process. So they don't collect your passport. They don't ask you to fill up a form. You don't have to wait in line for a queue. You just go straight to your room. Yeah.
Thank you. I like how you thought through deeply on this part of business. So that's great.
Yeah, definitely, because and I think ultimately for Southeast Asia, the regulatory are not that high yet at this point in time. So we do see in Singapore, in Japan, in Korea, which we are already present in those markets. So we really have to kind of follow the regulatory frameworks that require, say, a person to be verified in person. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks very much, BCs, as well as Ian. Next up, we have Vincent Chan from B360 Property. Vincent.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share my screen now. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vincent Chan, and I'm here today to share with you my vision for creating the region's first true property visual data platform. So let's look at what's happening in the market today. So despite the pandemic that is going on, the property market is showing no signs of slowing down. If you guys are in the property market today, you would see that transactions are still very strong. And even during the circuit breaker phase 1 and phase 2, there are still transactions and people are still going online to buy houses, just using virtual tours and videos and having Zoom meetings with their agents. So this is the situation today. So what are the pain points that we are trying to address here? Because even though that the market has sort of adapted well, but the bulk of the listings on the property portals that we see today are still lack of visual data. A lot of them are still using only still photos. So we think that there is a lot of room for improvement. So on the agent side, what are the pain points? The agent side is like, if let's say they wanted to do this kind of technology, the cost is still quite high. And also it's also not very conducive for them to do it because of the behavior of the portals we see on the market today. They are also being held ransom by the cost of the portal subscription and advertising. So you can see from this article, prices have raised by more than 1,000% in 9 years. So agents have no choice but to pay. Because of the model of the property portals, they are going by classified advertising. So they only reward agents listings with the higher, the more the agents pay, then the higher they will be featured on top of the search. So what we are trying to have here is a solution that is catered to solve these two pain points of the consumer and agent. So if you see something like that, this is like a prototype, which is similar to YouTube, where the listings that are shown up on the buyer searches will be based more on quality and based more on views. So the more views they have on the listing, then the property will tend to be shown up first. This is actually, the logic is, if more people see it, means that there is a certain form of social recognition that the listing is of a good quality. So that is how we are trying to position our portal. So our portal will only be having videos or visual data or 360 tours. So which will come with some floor plan in 2D and 3D as well. So why are we the best fit to do something like that? Because our background is on service provider. We are actually two different brands. One is a service provider where we get a professional to go down and take the footage. The other is actually a SaaS system that the agent can take by themselves and upload the footage and stitch it up to become a 360 virtual tour. So this one we are already online and we have more than 1,700 users. For the two service provider combined, we have actually done more than 21,000 tours. So what is our go-to-market strategy? We will actually target two markets. One is the Singapore market and the other is the Bangkok market. So why Bangkok? I'll come to that later. But we will have a few steps that we go. How we are going to monetize is by subscription, hosting, and selling of data, and of course the service provider part. So our total available market is actually in the region is USD 30 billion. We're talking only about Southeast Asia. Sorry, we're talking about global. TAM is global, 30 billion. The SAM is, we are talking about only Singapore and Thailand is about 30 million and 54.5 million. So we are only targeting a serviceable market of about 10%. We have done our homework as well. So we look at the whole region's property portals, and we actually zoom in on Thailand is because the market there is more fractured with no true dominant player. Unlike markets in Singapore and Malaysia, which of course we know who are the dominant players. So it's a bit harder to penetrate over there. Just a brief introduction of our client, who we have served. So we actually have more than 3,700 agents using our services already. This is one of another revenue stream that we are going to be selling is the floor plans. About the team, myself, as well as my CTO, we are the main drivers here of these two different platforms. And why I'm the right person to come in for this platform is because, and why in Thailand is because I own an agency over there. So we are trying to raise about 350,000 to kickstart in a web development team, as well as a software development team, and also on the freemium market in Bangkok, where we have more than 1,000 over listings there. And why is the time now? Because due to the COVID and the mass acceptance of the consumer and agents to do virtual viewings online. Okay, that will be the end of my presentation, and I'll take questions here.
Thanks, Vincent. Over to you, VCs.
Oh, hi, Vincent. Thanks for the pitch. I guess quick question is, just now you mentioned that, on the normal, like current property listings, agents only show the best parts of the property. So how do you also prevent them from only showing the best parts in the 360 video?
Okay, if we're talking about 360, normally we will actually take the whole, of course, they will try to stage their properties. Like sometimes we go in earlier to actually stage the property in a more attractive way. But at least the consumer have a very good idea of how the property looks like in terms of the layout, as well as the distance from, for example, distance from the kitchen to the bedroom. So it's a more 360 view rather than just like still photos where you don't really have a very good idea. So that's what we are trying to achieve.
Okay.
And in today's market, we still have the 3D model.
Yeah, understand. I guess then a quick follow-up to my first question is, you're raising about 350K to expand into Thailand as well as to kick off Singapore, right? 350K ultimately is not a lot of money to have operations in 2 countries like this. So is there a certain focus that you're going after? For example, it's fine to just completely focus on Thailand as well, right? Is there anything that you're targeting just for this first round? Like what's your milestones or objectives you want to hit?
Okay, why we actually have to start from Singapore is because we already have the data. So as I mentioned in my pitch just now, we have more than 21,000 tours done, and every day we are still doing. So we don't actually need to be like, for example, 99.co when they started, they have to scrape data from other platforms. So what we do is we have our own exclusive data. But in Thailand, we haven't actually started on the service provider model yet. So that's why we have to start by giving freemium to listings and to agents. So we will actually start with the listings that we have first, because I myself own an agency in Thailand. So we already have on hand about 1,000 over listings that we can start digitizing first to put on the platform. So that is why these 2 markets specifically to start.
Okay, cool. Understand. Thanks.
Hi, Winston. This is Eunice. This is both a question and also some feedback. I'm not very clear from the presentation what exactly your product is or services, right? You mentioned V360 and also Panapedia. You're both founders of these separate companies. Now they've been merged into the umbrella of one company, right?
Correct.
So, and you're both a SaaS software, but also a product in like a classified listing website.
Okay, I will try to clarify here. Okay, what we are now, we are just service providers. So we are providing a service, we are content creators. But right now we are trying to go into a platform and put all our content there and reach out to buyers and sellers and agents. Okay, one of the challenges that we face now as a service provider is we actually need to piggyback on other people's platforms for our content. What happens is their way of doing things is me, myself as a practitioner in the market, I think there's a lot of improvement can be done because of the way the portals work is that they only reward listings that pay the most. They don't reward based on quality. So we find that our customers, even though they engage us, their listings are still at the back, but their listings are definitely of higher quality than a lot of the listings on top. So that is what I'm trying to change here.
So that's the pain point you're trying to solve for, which is how to get listings to have better visibility.
I feel that consumers are shortchanged because they only see listings that the agents pay the most to the portal and not the quality ones.
I see. But the follow-up there is like, once you have your own platform and they all have these beautiful VR 360 videos,
Correct.
Once you start scaling and accumulate a lot of listings, how would you sort of resolve the same issue where you have also like 1,000 listings, 10,000 listings? Inevitably, you're going to get that issue with any marketplace, with any platform of having to, prioritize.
So that's why we want to be based on like Google's kind of strategy on YouTube. Okay, they also reward those that have higher views and higher quality. Okay, higher views means like there's a social validation that your videos or your content is actually more popular. So in that sense, the one that is judging whether your listing appears to be on top or below is actually the consumer. Yes.
Understand. Yeah, just maybe in your deck, it would be great if you could have a clearer product page, like in terms of where you're at now versus where you want to be. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, if there are no other questions, we will move on to our next founder. Next up, we have Stefan from Elixir. Stefan, your 2 minutes begin whenever you are ready.
Yep, all right, cool. Okay, able to see my screen, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Stefan, founder and CEO of Elixir. Elixir is your personalized cloud sports club. So a little bit about myself. I was a soldier for a long time, 16 years, left the army 5 years ago. And after I left the army, I was deeply passionate about getting the community active and fit, and especially providing personalized fitness solution at scale. So we all know that fitness is important, right? But many people don't do it. So fitness is something that's very counterintuitive. If you can have a magical pill that makes you fit without working out, we will do it. And the reason why we don't do it, number one, bad sports, is tiring and it's busy. So I think with COVID, less people are going to the gym because of SMM, safe distancing measures, decreasing motivation to exercise and decreasing in physical activity. However, we do see more people going outdoors to work out. So it's something that's a little bit counterintuitive here. So what is our vision? What do we want to do? Number one, we want to democratize fitness, make it accessible to all, providing solution that is backed by science and data. So my experience came from offline to online. So we are a ground up, direct to consumer, social fitness platform. So what's the solution we provide? So we put the user at the middle of it all, right? Providing them with rewards whenever they join social workout classes, right? Somewhat like an Eventbrite or a Health 365. And then outside of it, using AI recommendation and tracking, we then provide virtual challenges, videos, fitness festival, and even IoT device, which I'm going to touch on a little bit later. So we are a fitness ecosystem. So what do we have now? So everything that you see here is now live. So we provide live workouts offline for you to join. So Singapore Sports Hub uses our mobile application exclusively for their daily fitness classes, both free and paid. Right, we provide coach support for personal trainers, giving them a rewards program, helping them to aggregate sponsorship. And on the right, you see that we also do provide workout videos as well as expert advice to help these coaches go to market. The DNA kit that you see at the bottom right was our first product that we launched 3 years ago when we started our company, but it has since sold out and we stopped it because the traction wasn't great, right? As a VC funded company, we are a little bit early in the curve, so we stopped it. So in terms of timeline, since we set up 3 years ago, been through a couple of programs, 500 in Japan, as well as with global launch. We did plug and play in Japan, won Best International Startup Award. And we have incorporated our legal entity in Japan, integrated Razor Pay in our app, as well as winning the Deep Tech Challenge with Panasonic sometime last year, where we are working on an IoT device as part of the offering for our ecosystem. So in terms of traction, now we have about 13,000 users, hosted more than 1,200 offline events with more than 54,000 attendance being clocked on our mobile application. In terms of addressable market, we are focused on the Asia Pacific region, specifically Singapore and Japan. And why Japan? Because it is the country with the third biggest amount of spending, right? After China and Australia. In terms of business model, this is how we make money, right? So coaches use us as a business tool, and we take a transaction fee off any paid classes. For consumers, they use our app for free. If it's a paid class, then they have to pay. For corporates and enterprises, they use us and the data that we've collected in terms of consumer fitness and lifestyle attributes. In terms of team, we are a 16-man strong team. Who you see here, myself, I'm based in Singapore. Charles, previously from Enterprise Singapore, Tokyo office, is now a BD manager based in Japan. Why Japan? Previous Rakuten Asia CEO, Shimada-san, he's our angel investor on our cap table. And also he was the Rakuten baseball president based in Japan. So some partners we have in Singapore, in Japan, was also very fortunately featured on Fortune magazine earlier last year for our first product, which was a DNA test kit. Yep. So keep it short and sweet. I think any further questions can be clarified. If not, we can have a deeper conversation when we meet face-to-face or over Zoom.
Thanks, Stefan. Any questions from the VCs?
Hi, Stefan. Thanks for the presentation. I mean, congrats on the good growth as well, from 2019 to 2020. I guess seeing as you have grown that user base quite a bit, what are your current revenue numbers or what you're projecting to hit in the coming 2 years?
All right, so currently our ARR is about 200K, right, as of now. And most of it is enterprise and not direct to consumer because especially in Singapore, where we have the 3 biggest agencies running public health promotion board, Sports Singapore, and Singapore Sports Hub. A lot of things are free, right? So in terms of consumer spending habits, that's where we find it challenging to monetize from consumers in Singapore. But as any good tech company, we know that Singapore is just a springboard for us, right? The bigger area we're looking at is Southeast Asia, and that is where we are focusing on, especially Japan, where they are poised to host Olympics, but failing which, it is a very defensible market where it's very difficult for any startup to enter if they do not have somebody already in that space.
Okay, and I guess just now, I think the deck that we got sent over, there was a competitor slide as well that I think you didn't manage to cover. You talked quite a bit about Japan. Yeah, no, I guess I'm just slightly confused as to if you think that, outside of Japan, outside of Singapore is where the real target market is. Why do you compare yourself, in terms of market share to Singapore? Why not, Japan or other places like this?
Okay, the reason is because we are not physically in that space yet. So outside of Singapore, we are only physically in Japan. Of course, I want to compare myself with Keep, right? But we are not in China, right? And why Japan? I think, as mentioned, we have a very valuable investor there who has his whole slew of Japanese conglomerate partners that is there. So I took out the competitor slide because I'm not sure who are the target audience that is in this conversation, but we are comparing ourselves very closely with Keep. And I think the main difference is that we are a very ground up company that is building on direct to consumer behavior and habits, which in the VC sense is difficult to scale, right? But because that was how I started off my business, so to us it's an advantage. So we have very strong retention and low churn, right? Because we know how to build a community. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess my final question is, building on what you talked about, high retention, low churn, but what is your sort of like active user population within your user base, and sort of like what are your plans to improve that in the future?
Sure. So as of now, our monthly active user is about 25% of our total users, about 25%. Monetization is about 10%. So out of all the users, 10% are paying customers. And this is comparable to Keep, right? So Keep, with their 300 million users, their paying customers is only about 10% as well. But of course, there is a very big base over there. But I'm thinking we can get on the deeper conversation. I've done some research on how different we are from Keep and how similar we are with them, looking at the geographical and also some of the political motivation behind why Keep succeeded in China and why potentially we can have another player outside of China. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Hey, Stefan, just piggybacking off of the revenue question, trying to understand, so going forward, do you see most of your revenues coming in from a B2B, sort of like with coaches, or is it from the direct to consumer? And yeah, that's my first question.
Yeah, sure. I think first thing, in terms of monetization, I think enterprises will be who we want to monetize from first, enterprises. So if enterprises, we bring in the users, and then we can monetize from the coaches. Right. So why enterprises? Because look at us okay, just imagine you Eunice, today you run Under Armour in Asia. You want to know who are the Nike customers, right? And the thing is that if you are, and if, for example, if Zhongxi, if you are Nike, right, you have a Nike training club, but you won't really expect Under Armour users to be on the Nike training club platform, right? Because any reward system that they earn will only be able to be redeemed via Nike shops. So this cross-pollination of casual, active sports users in Asia is very important to understand the logic that we are not the hardcore athletes that do yoga and nothing else, right? We are the casual people that works out yoga on one day, running the other, probably cycling on the third day, because of this social element that drives us to want to work out, not because like we are really the hardcore athletes. Yeah, because hardcore athletes, they already know what they want. They are not who we're targeting. We are looking at the other 80%. Yeah.
Understand. Can you talk more about what your strategies been engaging with influencers, things like that, sort of building that community aspect?
Sure. So our perfect first fitness influencer are not the Jordan Yo or the Kayla from Sweat. They are already successful. We are looking for the people who are fresh out from their ACE certified personal trainer cert, who has a knowledge, great personality, but don't have consumers to showcase their services to. So we are the one to help them, like we are a little bit like their seed investor, like their angel round, to help them get their foot off the door, right? To help them grow their community, because the key is the coach, right? The same push-up that I teach and the same push-up that probably Carmen teach is going to be the same. It is the personality of the coach that's the most important bit in consumer acquisition and user growth.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Stefan.
Thank you.
Our VCs. Last but not least, we have one last founder for today. We have Siddharth from myrobin.id.
Hello. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Your internet's a bit choppy, though.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. So, hello, everybody. Is my screen visible now?
It is still loading.
Okay, great. So
Okay.
myrobin is a hub that provides companies in Indonesia with blue-collar workers. So the likes of Lazada, Shipper, warehouse workers, that's what we do. And at the same time, our vision is to provide these workers with financial and training benefits to boost retention and improve their life, right? And in terms of the team, my co-founder, Adi Satria, has built platforms from 0 to 6 million users. Pagi Pagi, which was sold to Traveloka. He was a CTO of Like. And my background has been mostly in banking. I've done a couple of startups with Barclays and INSEAD. And our clients are the likes of Lazada, JD.id, Axiata, and we are in talks with JNE and JNT. In terms of the market, a huge market, 100 million workers in Indonesia, and approximately they earn around $220 to $250 a month. So it's a $25 billion market in terms of monthly salaries that are processed. Our focus is logistics, warehousing, FMCG, retail, and of course, after COVID, F&B and hospitality is a huge space. Good thing that's happening in Indonesia is that the government is passing laws that removes all restrictions in terms of what roles can be outsourced. Up until 2020, the government had a prescribed list of what roles can be outsourced, and that's changing now. In terms of myrobin, we not only provide quality workers but the platform takes care of all the problems that the company has to take care of, from contract management, from daily attendance, and even the payments are processed via MyRobin. And what we provide to workers are benefits in terms of fintech solutions. And what we're building is a community engagement platform, which is like a LinkedIn for blue collar workers. How is it done today? Typically, companies go to conventional outsourcing agencies today, which is extremely expensive because they're manual, they're slow, and they lack all the transparency. Our solution is in 24 hours on demand, because we have automated the assessments, and we give companies the flexibility that they need during COVID. So companies can hire workers on monthly, weekly, daily basis. All the contracts, attendance is managed by MyRobin, and what we give to workers is benefits. And what we're building is really like a verified worker profile, starting from the IDs. So KTP, KK, these are NRIC equivalent of Indonesian identities, the performance and assessments, the daily performance, who they work with, and the daily income. So banks are approaching us now that, hey, can we work with you, and you can open your bank account of your worker with us. In terms of the business model, very simple. We charge an 8% management fee on total labor cost. So if the worker works 3 months, we get 8% every month. And in terms of traction, we're very fast. Last month, what we processed on the platform is $120,000. This month in April, what we have processed on the platform is $150,000. We charge an 8% management fee on this number, and 95% of our workers are on long-term roles, leading to recurring revenues. This is just pictures of how we engage our workers. This is Putra, this is Anom. So we meet our workers and we have morning tea sessions with them. This is exactly what Gojek did to learn from workers. What's the problem? What's the family issues? How's the work going? And I'm going to stop here. We are raising $1 million for an 18-month runway to establish MyRobin as the go-to platform for logistics, e-commerce, retail hiring. All right, that's all.
Thanks very much, Sid. Any questions from our VC?
Thanks for the presentation, Sid. I think just to touch on the last slide there about the 8% management fee, you highlighted that there's an upside to 12% in the future. How are you looking to achieve this, and when do you think it's realistically possible?
I'll share back my screen again. So today, we are not charging for many services that we provide to our clients. And this is a slide that I'm sharing with you. So we are live with this feature. We already have attendance and overtime management, that's live. We're not charging. Payment reconciliation and processing, live, not charging. Payday loans, early wage access, not charging. So this is the trajectory, how we believe that we can actually go to 18 to 25% in future, because all of these services are not being charged right now. And as we turn on these features, some of them which are already live, we can increase our margin.
Okay, and I guess just looking at Indonesia's working population as a whole, right? Going from an 8% fee to, let's say, on the higher side, 25%. Do you foresee that as creating a lot of churn for you, just because of the cost it will be to the employer, the difference in that margin there?
So I don't think that there's going to be a churn. I'll just take some examples. So ISS is a well-established company which focuses on security and cleaning. employers do not want to hire these blue collar workers because there's a high severance fee. When you fire these workers, you need to pay like 17 months severance fee, right? So employers typically do not want to hire these workers, which is why they're willing to take this cost of 8 or 12 or 15% month on month, because that gives them the flexibility that they can actually get rid of them easily.
Okay, cool. I guess my last question is around your KYC portion. Obviously, in Indonesia, there have been a lot of cases of fake ID cards and things like that. So how do you make sure that anything that is presented to your system is legal and compliant?
So we've integrated with government systems to validate KTP. KTP is NRIC equivalent of Singapore IC, family card, even the government, the police record. So we have integrated with systems to make sure that the person is real, as well as the ID that they're presenting belongs to them and is also real. So yeah, they're pretty safe from that perspective.
Hi, Siddharth. I like how in the earlier slide you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of contact, and effectively you're trying to say that the MyRobin touches on all 6 points. But every time I see a full stack end-to-end solution like that, I ask, what exactly is the focus that you're trying to sell today?
So the focus today is to build this core service, and which is exactly why I have limited the slide space on these other supplementary income sources. The focus today is to build on the core service and have like 100,000 workers under management. Make sure that these guys perform, and which is why I show these KPIs, that we have 95% fulfillment rate. So if Lazada asks us tomorrow, I need 100 workers, I can actually give 95% of those workers. And 3/4 of those are done within 24 hours. And 96% of these workers show up to work. And I couldn't say this while I was in Stanchart. So this is the core focus, giving quality workers who perform.
Beautiful. So I think that part is important. I think you got to sell the strongest part of the business first. And in such an end-to-end process, then the rest of it becomes your expansion strategy or your product roadmap strategy. Then, since this is the key part of the business, then I will zoom in on here and ask the question of how do you make sure that you continue to build a defensive moat around this. And I have a very specific example in mind. I might be a little bit off room, but just because it's relevant, it's recent. The Grab versus Gojek and them fighting for drivers when they were both in Singapore and when Uber was here for a period of time as well. So how do you make sure that these people stay with you?
Great point, right? And which is exactly why we are building these early wage access kind of benefits. Because, so I do not turn on these early wage access perks for my workers on day one. If they perform 3 months with my clients and they mean 98% SLA, that's when they earn the right to have this early wage access, because the other alternative for them is to go to P2P lending, which is 12% interest rate a month. And I provide them early wage access at 3%, right? So I'm creating a positive affirmation for them. If you perform well, you can actually get these rights and you earn these benefits on a much lower rate. Take a reason for them to stay with me. Make sense?
I lost you for the last 5 seconds, but I think I'm flowing. So got it. Thank you.
Hey, Sid, just
Yeah,
one
you.
question from me. On the point of early wage access, I'm curious, have you started building partnerships with the various EWA players, or are you planning to do it yourself? Like the Gajikus and the Gajigaisas and all that?
All right, so Gajigatsa is a partner, Wagely is a partner. So we're not trying to create a balance sheet ourselves, but we're partnering with these people and they revenue share with us.
I see. Understand. Thank you.
No problem.
I guess, sorry, final question. Are there any licenses that you need to obtain? And if so, have you already done that?
Yeah, so we have an outsourcing license in Indonesia. And in terms of the fintech play, we're not planning to apply for licenses. We're just partnering with the people who have the licenses.
Okay. Yeah, I guess just a good point for Indonesian-based businesses, a lot of times licensing is quite key. So if you have obtained any license, it'd be good to have a slide or at least include it just to say that, we're fully licensed, no issues about that. Just, a pointer for the future.
Sure. So we do have outsourcing license, but point noted, I'll include that. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sid, and thank you to our panel of VCs for the session today as well. Thank you to the rest of the participants as well, once again, for joining us today. We certainly hope you've had some key takeaways, first from the sharing by AJ, and then subsequently the experience of watching this diverse groups of founders in this live pitch segment. We hope that this will also help you in your next fundraising journey. It will be most helpful if you could also take a minute to fill in a short survey for us. And for those who are looking to join more of such events, please also check back our ACE events page as well as social channels for more updates. And with that, goodbye and see you at the next session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.